Hi there, this is Paige with Stamp Girl here on YouTube, and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm sharing with you the cards I made using an older paper pumpkin kit. I'm doing this with my friend Linda, who's Linda Kaufman here on YouTube, and we have, through conversation, discovered that we have a lot of unused or unfinished paper pumpkin kits in our stash. And so we decided to do a collab, and we're calling it Canned Paper Pumpkin Challenge. And so I wrote down all of the names of all of the kits that we had in common, and I randomly drew them out of a box and assigned each one to a month, so they don't really match up in season or holidays or whatever, but that's part of the challenge. So this month we are working with the October 2019 paper pumpkin called Winter Woods, and this was a holiday kit, and I've mentioned it before, but oftentimes for the holiday kits I'll order 2 kits, and sometimes I'll even buy refills if they're available as well. So what I had in this kit was a brand new full-size kit and portions of a refill or another kit. Anyway, I had a ton of stuff. And so I was able to make 20 cards. I tried to make alternative cards. Not that the ones that they show you aren't good, but I just like to make alternatives if I can. So let me show you what I have left over. So of course the stamp set. And then I hung on to these which is what the trees were punched out of, because it's kind of a glittery paper. And so I think what I'll do is I'll cut some of these larger pieces down in the middle and save those for using for punches and things. I saved this because sometimes I like to take these negative pieces and scan them into my Scan and Cut, and then save it as a file to cut banners. So that's being saved right now. And then I saved this piece just to show you later what I did with 2 of these papers. This is something that the little wood grain strips came from. So then I have a lot of sentiment banners left. I have a lot of wood grain strips left. And I have some of these cute little cardinals left over. The kit came with some envelopes, and I used quite a few of them for the wood grain pattern, but the ones that I didn't cut apart and use for the wood grain, I'll match up with the cards that I have made and use them for when I send them out. It came with some little snowflakes, but I believe I bought some additional snowflakes as well. Night of Navy Stampin' Spot, and then I have quite a few of these birch trees left. I think there's 11 and a half inside this package, if I remember correctly. So I will be sure and use those for future projects. What I do with my leftover pieces is I keep all my paper, well, I don't keep all of them, but I keep many of my paper pumpkin boxes, and I turn them inside out. I use one box to store extra envelopes, one box for extra card bases, one box for cut-aparts, one box for stickers. You get the idea. And then as I'm creating different things, I'll pull out a paper pumpkin box and look through it and see what I can use from that kit. So that's what I have left that I need to divide up into the proper boxes. So let me show you the cards that I made. I'm going to share these with you in no particular order. A die set that I used often on my cards was the Stitched Nested Labels die. I use that one a lot. I also use this delightful Tag Topper Punch. And I used this embossing folder from Cuttlebug. Okay, which way does it go? I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. But it's a little cardinal on a pine branch, and it's snowflakes in the background. I thought it went perfectly for the theme of this kit. And then I used another embossing folder. I spent the last hour searching for it and can't find it, so who knows where it ended up. But anyway, on to the cards. So this is where I used that delightful Tag Topper Punch. I trimmed a card front 2 inches wide and used the Tag Topper Punch, and then just placed it over another card front and put it on a white card base. I like sturdier cards, so I often don't use the card bases that come in the Paper Pumpkin kits just as the card itself. I like to cut off the fronts and then use both of those pieces for layering or whatever. So here's some of the snowflakes in the background, one of the birds. I did Wink Stella on the trees, on the snowy parts of the trees. The tag is popped up. I had some clear glitter border strips, so I used one on each side. Here's the sentiment banner and the wood grain strip that I layered together. And then this is some denim ribbon from Stampin' Up! And then here is the inside. I like to use scraps of whatever paper I'm using to stick on the inside. And then I added another one of those clear glitter border strips. And I don't know if I mentioned, I have 20 cards, so I'll try not to keep you too long. This is the embossing folder I can't find. It's pine branches. So I just used a card front and embossed it with the pine branch. I used another card front and a circle die and die cut the trees and just placed them, lining them up in place with the scene behind it. This is popped up with foam tape and then Wink Stella on the snow. This is where I used that embossing folder of the cardinal. I added some extra snowflake sequins. Here's one of the envelopes I cut apart for the wood grain, and then I had some red glossy cardstock in my stash, so I put that in the background. Here is a gatefold card. I talked about how from previous Paper Pumpkin kits I take the leftovers and put them into boxes to use later. So I have a box of cut-aparts, and these little branches were from a previous Paper Pumpkin kit. So I just used it to decorate this belly band, and I made a gatefold card. Here I took 4 of those border strips and just put them together to make a frame. I had some wooden dots in my stash, so I put those in each corner. This is popped up with dimensionals, and then I just made a scene in the background with the birch trees. The birch trees come in two pairs of trees, and I just used one pair off to the left. This is where I used the other birch trees. I had some Star Dream paper in kind of this navy blue color. It's popped up with craft foam, and I just layered it with white. These were the stitched rectangle dies. Added some snowflakes, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And here's where I took another pair of birch trees and put it on the inside, just for something different, and I need to use those up. Not that I don't like them, it's just that I ended up not really using that many of them on these cards. So here was another card front that I die cut with a large circle. This is a Gina Marie lacy edge die. This circle is popped up with craft foam. And then Wink Estella on the snow on the trees. And then the wood grain is from one of the envelopes. This is the birch trees, and I put behind it some acetate that is printed with snowflakes, and I believe that is from Stampin' Up! From many, many years ago. And so I just attached the trees to the outside so that the adhesive would be hidden, and then the scene is behind the acetate and behind the trees. And then there's the inside. I think what I'll do is I'll go over this with some stickles just to highlight that a little bit. So I'll set that one aside. Here is a shaker card, and on the inside I have some chunky glitter, some of the snowflakes from the kit, and some little clear and silver beads shaken around. For this card, I used a piece of vellum to make it look like a foggy or misty kind of a day in the background. And this is what I mean with the stickles down here. I think I'll do that to here and on the inside as well, just like I did here. This one is a die from the Stamps of Life, like a little window die, and so I die cut it from the paper inside the envelope. And then this oval is popped up with craft foam. This snowflake was stamped off. We're using Night of Navy ink. And then the sentiment is in early espresso. And then I hadn't planned ahead. So I used the snowflake transparency, and if I would have planned ahead, it would have been a rectangle hidden behind the frame, but I thought of it later, so I had to die cut it so that I'd get those 4 little insert pieces. And so I attached them with glue dots behind a couple of the snowflakes. Oh, here is a card where I used a snowflake embossing folder, and trying to remember how I made it because I made this quite a while ago. So I used a circle die to punch out that, and then I used a larger something kind of die to punch out from the white, and then I placed it on top to form a frame. That's kind of lame. I just don't remember exactly what I did. Then I splattered everything with, or I sprayed everything with shimmer mist. That's blank on the inside. This one's one of my favorites. I have some kind of brushed dark, like gunmetal cardstock in the background. And I put 2 of the trees that are attached on one, and then another pair of trees in the center. And then backed it with black onto a white card base. Here's a fun fold card where I used those stitched nested label dies. So I cut one card base from the kit in half for the folded panels, and then another one I cut with the stitch die, and then a little bit larger one to mat it with, and then I matched up this one with this one so it would stay hidden until you open up the card. Here's where I cut away the snow from the bottom of the trees and just put them close to the snow on the scene, and that idea actually came from the alternative ideas from Stampin' Up. I did something very similar to that, and this is where I got the idea to die cut the circle where you don't cut off the tree tops. The trees are popped up with dimensionals, as is the sentiment. And then it's on the outside, it says Winter Wishes, and on the inside it says Season's Greetings. Here's where I used those nested dies again. I used the negative piece from the white and a negative piece from one of the card bases, and then another card base, or the piece that I cut from here, went under there. So I didn't use any dimensionals to lift it up, but you can see the layering effect from the 3 different pieces. And that on the inside. So here was another window die that I cut using the die set from the Stamps of Life. Actually, I had this cut previously. It was in my die pouch, and I decided to use it, and so I layered it onto some wood grain paper from one of the envelopes, and from the flap of the envelope I cut this oval layer and just used a little portion of the birch trees, popped that up with dimensional or craft foam, and then this is popped up with dimensionals. And there is the inside, and just a couple more nested dies, some of the clear glitter strips, and then this is closed with a Velcro dot. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And I need to go over the tree with Wink of Stella. I forgot to do that. So I'll set that one aside to finish. Oh, and on this one I also added an extra panel on the back because there's not a lot of room to write on the inside so that your handwriting doesn't show. So finish that one up. Here's where I took the wood grain strips and I cut the tops to look like little fence posts. And where did it go? So for this part of the fence, I just used, on one of these, I just cut these off and used those 2 negative strips to help hold the fence together. And then here's the inside. And then here's my last card. So here's one of the envelopes. This piece right here is 2 of these. So I did one crisscross and I cut across all the little strips, and then I wove it in and out of the one going the opposite direction, glued all the ends together, and then trimmed off the white when I was done. And then I backed it with white cardstock and then some early espresso. These are some leftover pine sprigs from a previous paper pumpkin kit. And I've got some little snowflake sequins on there. This is a layered sticker. So I'm in a collaboration hosted by Deb Hauk called the Stick Your Side of Crafting, where we are to use up our stickers. And since the collaboration started, I had not purchased any stickers. But I was recently out of town, and I Went into a Target store, which I hadn't been to in months and months and months. The dollar spot was pretty sparse, not anything exciting there, but I wandered over to the office supplies and the kind of smallish arts and crafts aisle, and hanging up were these gold glitter bow stickers. And I had a weak moment, and I bought them. I bought 3 packages. It was a weak moment, but I'm going to make use of them. I'm going to love using them. And here's 2 of them right here. One is down flat and one is popped up with a dimensional right in the center of the knot. And here's the inside. So, I would like to thank you for joining me. Down below, I will leave a link to Linda's channel so you can see how she canned her paper pumpkin this month. And for those of you that are playing along, anyone is welcome to. Next month in July, we're pulling out September 2019 Bon Appetit. And the kit looks like that. And let me warn you, I have a full kit in here and a refill to work through. So I'm going to be making lots of projects with this throughout the month, I hope. Fingers crossed that I'll be able to can that paper pumpkin kit. So, thank you for joining me, and now I'm off to create.